These two main ETFs that I hold, you would think I made a mistake because they overlap so much. They hold a lot of the same sector and a big amount of the same holdings. Nvidia, Amazon, Tesla, Microsoft, and so many more. From the naked eye on the surface, you think I probably made a mistake investing in both. So today I want to talk about why I do hold both, what makes them different underneath the overlap, and how to tell the difference between the overlap that's a mistake and the overlap that's a decision. Now, the two funds I'm talking about are SCHG and QQQM. Both are large cap growth, both are tech heavy, and if you ran them through an overlap checker, which I'll do in a little bit, you'll see a sizable chunk of the same holdings. So this video isn't about avoiding overlap completely. It's about what to check when you decide to pick two different ETFs or stocks that are very similar in their holdings, and whether to keep both or just pick one. And if you're new here, welcome to the channel where we discuss how to grow our portfolios for the ultimate portfolio payday. Just remember, I'm some random dude on the internet, so always make sure to do your own due diligence before you invest any of your hard-earned money in the markets. What we discuss here definitely works for my portfolio, but it might not work for yours. So let's get started. SCHG is the Schwab US Large Cap Growth ETF. It tracks a broad growth index around 197 holdings. So while it's tech heavy, around 44% of the fund, it's still spread across other growth sectors too. Communication services, consumer discretionary, healthcare. It's about as cheap as ETFs get, with an expense ratio of just 0.04%. QQQM is the NASDAQ 100 fund, Invesco's lower cost version of QQQ. It's narrower on purpose, with 104 companies all listed on the NASDAQ, which skews it even harder into tech and away from sectors like financials that NASDAQ doesn't have much of. It costs a bit more, 0.15%, still cheap, just not SCHG cheap. So on paper, one is broader and dirt cheap expenses, while the other is a little bit more expensive and much more concentrated. That's already a big difference, and here's where it gets interesting. Over the past year, QQQM has returned 27.16%. SCHG has returned 16.3%. That's a pretty sizable gap. Zoom out 5 years, and QQQ compounds at roughly 15.6% versus 14.1% for SCHG. QQQM has been the better performer and consistently better. So the question is, why shouldn't you or I dump all of SCHG for QQQM? And the answer is because all that performance that QQQM has had is directly correlated to tech concentration. The run that QQQM has had has been aggressive because the tech sector has grown exponentially. When NASDAQ heavy tech is running, QQQM wins. But when that trade cools off and starts to slow down, QQQM has less to fall back on than SCHG's broader growth exposure. SCHG's extra diversification is definitely a trade-off for lower returns, but it's not underperforming by accident, and it's designed to be less concentrated on purpose. So the truth is, I don't hold both of these in my portfolios because I couldn't decide. I hold both of them because they sit at different points on the same growth spectrum, and I want exposure for the long term on either end. SCHG gives me a cheaper, broader version of the bet, while QQQM gives me the higher concentrated, higher conviction version. Holding them together gives me a blend that I can't get from just holding one of them. More NASDAQ-specific tech growth than SCHG by itself, and more sector balance with SCHG than QQQM can provide. So comparing the two, the overlap by weight is 57%. And 45 of the holdings overlap as well, which means that 45% of QQQM is in SCHG and 27% of SCHG is in QQQM. Prime examples are the top 5 holdings, where Nvidia is 8% in QQQ, 10.7% in SCHG. Apple is 7.2% in QQQ and 10.4% in SCHG, and so forth. So when you're looking at two different ETFs or stocks to hold, and you're not sure if you should hold one versus the other or both, the true test is whether you can explain specifically what one fund gives you that the other doesn't. So in this instance, It's the cost and diversification of one ETF versus the concentration and higher returns of the other. If you can't decide that about a pair of your own funds, then you should probably get rid of one of them because you're duplicating your investing process. And there's a good probability that you're not gaining anything from holding both. You'd be essentially paying 2 expense ratios instead of 1 and adding a rebalancing headache for the exposure you could have just gotten from one fund. Overlapping isn't technically wrong, but when you can't explain it, why you're overlapping the funds, it is. So in a nutshell, this video sums up why I hold both SCHG and QQQM. Even though they literally look like they're stepping on each other's toes. The overlap is real, but it's a deliberate blend across the spectrum, not an accident that I never noticed. So before you decide to invest in 2 similar funds, do your research and find out what one fund is offering that the other doesn't. If the honest answer is nothing, then that's your sign to simplify. But if you're like me and you're comparing these 2 ETFs, you find cost and diversification versus concentration, then that's a portfolio decision you need to make. Let me know down in the comments if you own both of these in your portfolio, and if you don't, why not? And if you want to learn about what ETF is crushing both SCHG and QQQM, check out this video here over my shoulder. Thanks for joining me today. Until the next time, have a good one.